Next week's presentation with Leila Wells. I don't know if you've ever been here for one of her presentations. She's fantastic. Leila Wells. Leila reads again. Leila shares the story of the snow goose by Paula, I'm not sure how to say this, Galico? A parable on the regenerative power of friendship and love set against a backdrop of the horror of World War II. Critics called the book overly sentimental. Galico made no apology, saying, in the contest between sentiment and slime, sentiment remains far out in front. In 1971, a performance of Snow Goose was broadcast on BBC television, winning a Golden Globe and an Emmy, shown in the US on the Hallmark Hall of Fame. Leila has acted in community theater from age 16. Since coming to Lakeside in 2015, she is involved in many aspects of the local theater scene. Her goal with this reading is to make us weep, so bring your hankies. Which will be interesting because she usually makes us laugh. So do show up for that. That sounds really cool. This week's presentation, an illegal Gringo in Mexico, the story of the publication process, Randy Brutsche. This is the true American story of an American tourist seeking a retirement lifestyle as an expatriate in Mexico. While traveling via bus to see the countryside, Mr. Brutsche had seen many instances of immigration agents entering the bus to randomly check a few passengers for proper travel documents. When it finally happened to him, he quickly found out he did not have what was required. As an illegal alien without a visa or tourist visitation form, he was taken off the bus, his luggage pulled out, and the bus drove away. What followed was a hair-raising ordeal thrown at him in a language he did not speak that included being imprisoned for 6 days in a detention facility in Veracruz, Mexico. It ended when he was accompanied by 2 Mexican immigration agents and deported to Houston, Texas. Randy was born and raised in a small football crazy town in northwestern Illinois, was stationed in Germany from 75 to 78 in the U.S. Army, then moved to Alaska in 81 and lived in the Anchorage to Wasilla area for 35 years. His first book, his own true story, An Illegal Gringo in Old Mexico, is available on Amazon and as an ebook, and the paperback is coming out soon. And he is currently wrapping up the editing of a fiction novel, A Man in the Way of the Bear. Please join me in welcoming him today.
Okay, are we live here with the mic? Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, great. In Playa del Carmen, I met up with my older son. He'd attended a 4-day conference on cryptocurrency a few miles north in Cancun. Still working okay?
Yeah.
How's that? Better? Okay. I've been traveling across Mexico with us for a month to see the countryside. We shared a wonderful week just hanging with each other, catching up while enjoying the Mexican cuisine, culture, and weather. Monday evening, I called a taxi and loaded 2 backpacks containing a laptop each, a nice bicycle in a traveling box, and a 65-pound suitcase into a taxi and headed to the bus station. I was planning on traveling further across Mexico, attempting to make a first go at spending the winter here as an expat. It seemed like a no-brainer compared to months and months long winter in Alaska. And maybe some of you can relate to what was the sort of the straw that broke the camel's back to move down here. And risk the whole uncertainty of all that. I slipped and fell on wet ice twice the last winter in Alaska. And one time I landed right on my hip on a curb, and I thought, man, that's a broken hip, here we go. Well, no, but that sold me on getting out of the winter. No more of that. When we met at the bus terminal, I had my ticket. My son still had to purchase his. No problem. Mexican buses leave in astonishingly short intervals. Sure enough, when he noticed a pair of young ladies waiting for the next bus headed to Tulum, just down the beach, he gave me a quick hug and was away. A few minutes later, I boarded my 9:30 bus, headed 24 hours across Mexico from Cancun. In Mexico City, I would get a shuttle bus or a taxi across town to a different bus terminal serving the western half of Mexico. I wanted to time this leg for the midnight hours to avoid the daytime traffic loads. From there would be another taxi hop south to the town of Chapala, you guys know, on the north shore of the largest lake in Mexico, Laguna del Chapala. From there, I was aiming for a smaller town down the coast to Ajijic. I wanted a quick place to do nothing but finish up a novel I've been working on for many years. I was confident I could navigate the course despite not knowing more than a few words of Spanish. All I had to communicate was pointing to a town name on a map for agents at bus stations, pay the ticket price, and get on the right bus. How hard is that? For a month of bus travel, it had been smooth sailing. Now I had a 1-week reservation in Chapala to base from, and was hoping to find cheap long-term lodging in Ajijic. Okay. And I don't mind questions as we go. Any questions so far? Okay. Living my dream. Many years ago, I'd read about authors who checked into a hotel to work on a writing project. Sure, if I had $1 million, no lawn to mow, trash to take out, weekly cleaning with fresh towels and bed linen, sounds like a grand way to do it. In August of last year, I visited Ajijic for a week. As you all know, that can look like a full stack of green lights. I reserved a room at Hotel Atalo, half a block off the Ajijic Plaza, right up the road here, and came back in January of this year. When I got here, I had a grand attempt at a novel halfway written. A couple months ago, I hit return again, then typed in the end, without punctuation. Wow, what an accomplishment. Since then, I've edited the entire thing on screen and again from printed pages. I've begun distributing it to other English speakers here and family. A significant edit has popped up, and I'm already mostly finished with the fix. Along the way, an opportunity came up to turn this story into a book with extra promotion. I took a break from my main novel and whipped up my Gringo book into a quick and dirty shape. This was not to be my signature work. The point is that I'm now indeed living that dream. I am living full-time in a hotel with full service. I eat out every meal and enjoy saving the prep and cleanup time and effort. I also enjoy my time eating out from several angles that includes a bunch of friends, many of them here today, and more social invitations than I care to do. If I budget only that, my Social Security benefit still floats my entire boat, and I can still put away $500 in long-term savings. I'm living the dream. It's amazing. I have to remember that these are only the beginning of the cold months. My body is completely unconcerned with that trivia. I have to remind myself that money is not a concern, and I have what I consider to be a grand lifestyle. I'm amazed at the fantastic level of productivity I have enjoyed since moving here in January on my novel. It's going fantastic. My novel of many years has leaped from halfway stage to stomping all around the finish line. Some work here, some work there. Nothing compared to what I've already accomplished. I can practically skate downhill from here. But I don't have to even work that hard. I'm clearing a path through the entire process of ebook and print-on-demand hard copy with this Gringo book. Once my Bear book reaches a finished plateau, I can march it through the process from a recent trip through it. I'm now living my dream, but a funny thing happened on the way to it. How's my mic? Still doing okay? My mic? Excellent. Tuesday. After riding all night most of the day, my bus made another routine stop for an immigration check of random passengers. Having already traveled 3,000 bus route miles wandering back and forth from Mexicali to Cancun, I'd seen it all before. Each spot checked a few of us bus travelers and would be on our way. This time, the immigration stopped at my seat. I knew he wanted my travel documents, even though I didn't understand a word of his rapid-fire Spanish. I was curious to see exactly what the process was. He flipped through my U.S. passport and fired off more Spanish. I shrugged and pointed to my passport in his hands. Finally, one of the other passengers translated. He wanted my visa. I explained my passport was all I had. When this was translated to the immigration agent, I could feel everyone else on the bus pull back. No one wanted to be associated with me. I was, in U.S. terms, an illegal alien. This was 2017, and Trump had been in office right at a year. U.S. policy might have swayed my Mexican experience. I was ordered off the bus with my carry-on. When the immigration agent walked away toward the bus's door, I knelt down beside the translating passenger and quietly asked, "Is this one of those bribe fine situations? Should I just throw some money at the problem?" "Oh, no, don't do that. You'll really be in trouble if you do that." His advice squared with my own opinion of not trying to bribe my way out of legal troubles. Looking back, I remember him speaking a very crisp English. At the time, I didn't consider his opinion, certainly foreign, was likely to be completely uninformed on social norms. Outside the bus, the agent asked me to identify my luggage in undercarriage storage. The driver helped me pull it and carefully check my check stubs. The immigration agent pointed to a large canopy and a picnic table alongside the highway. He ordered me to move my things under the canopy and have a seat. While I was shuttling my box bicycle, my 65-pound zoo case, my pair of small backpacks with a laptop each, and now a bag of travel snacks, the bus drove away. The two immigration officials tried to make small talk with me for an hour. The older one, near my age, 62, spoke no English. The other, about 30 or less, spoke a few words, but could not really carry a give-and-take conversation. At one point, the senior immigration agent had a 20 peso note folded, and he kept rubbing the ends together, just like an American might do to indicate money. But he was doing this entirely to his younger partner, not to me. We were all close enough to play cards, and it seemed clear he wanted me to see what looked like a pretty clear sign, but my American upbringing held me back from making any first move to buy my way past a legal technicality. Yeah, I know, what a stupid gringo. Based on many conversations since then, I'm convinced a fine was being asked for, but only in the most subtle, deniable way possible. The only thing of importance I was able to get out of them was that a supervisor was going to show up and figure out what to do with me. After an hour, a woman of about 20-something showed up driving a full-size van and dressed in the same uniform. She sat down at the table, and the money-rubbing display was repeated by the senior immigration agent. If any of them had given me as much as a half a glance, I would have spread what little wealth I could, but no eye contact was initiated, and I held back. After the last money display failed to register, I was told to get into the van. When they pulled the side door open, I noticed immediately heavy-duty screens separating the front seats from the rear and covering all the rear windows. This was a prisoner transport van. She was not a supervisor, and there would be no figuring out of anything. After getting all my gear and me in the van, she took off driving like a maniac, constantly swerving around and crashing in and out of potholes, braking hard and accelerating just as hard, and going weightless over the massive country speed bumps. My things were sliding back and forth all over the van, and when her purse slid off the middle console to land in her lap, she left it there. I immediately started texting my son and was doing more backspacing than texting. I finally was able to check my position on Google Maps and included the nearest town's name. At one point, my son texted me back, advising me to get to a bathroom and hide my money. I appreciated the thought, but I didn't know where I'd hide it that would not be likely searched thoroughly, maybe in a matter of seconds. Okay, questions so far? Go ahead.
What is the reason that you did not get a visa?
Excellent question. The reason that I didn't get a visa or an FMM is because I traveled by bus and traveled from Mexicali, California into Mexico. This was 5 years ago. Evidently, the process is not tight enough to catch foreigners coming in. So I just fell into the country accidentally. Prior to coming in, I did some research and discovered on Google that you don't need a visa. Well, technically that's true, but you do need something, a visa or an FMM or something. So I came into the country under the wrong assumption that I did not need any travel documents. And of course, if you go into the very northern part of Mexico, just across the border towns, no, you don't need anything there. No one's going to stop you. Same thing going into Canada. You don't need a visa. So I came in under incorrect information, but I just didn't do enough research. Thank you. Anything else? And I am packing an FMM as we speak. No more of that. No more sequels. Go ahead.
Were you the only gringo on the bus?
I was certainly not the only English speaker on the bus. That's where some of the translator was, I think, from Britain. Very crisp English accent.
But he had a visa.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he only spot checked a couple people on the bus. I was one of them, so, they don't check everybody every time, just one or two and away you go. So after a month, it was my turn. Bang. Okay, so skip ahead in my little adventure here. I'm now in the facility. So because of national room assignments for sleeping, I found myself sharing a room with the other gringo in the facility, the only other gringo. I didn't bring him up earlier because of two reasons. First, he seemed more interested in talking with the other Spanish-speaking prisoners, and second, well, he was a sad case. Not too much to report. If I was asked to hold up my thumb and give him a clinical sense score, I'd have to rank his mental capacity at that about a 10-year-old. He made excessive and strange hand movements when he talked, and emotions sometimes ran across his face in rapid succession across a wide range. When I asked him how many days he had been held in prison, he got lost more than once, counting with one finger on his other hand, trying to get to the correct number. Now that he and I were locked away from the other prisoners for the night, I felt free to find out all I could about him and his imprisonment, and his impression of our shared tough spot. His story is very thin, always changing, but centered around his female cousin on the woman's side, who was 5 months pregnant. The two cousins were somehow involved in helping her boyfriend, who was fleeing from the U.S. law, get across the Mexican border. He admitted he had no passport and was in a bit more of a legal jam than me. I asked him why his help to get his cousin across the border extended all the way to within spitting distance of Guatemala. At that point, his face underwent the most dramatic change yet, going in an instant from easygoing to open hostility. Like me, he was more than 6 feet tall, more than 200 pounds. Unlike me, he was in mid-20s and in prime physical condition. And also, unlike me, I had already determined he was one of those experienced ballroom brawlers that could take a 2x4 up against the head and shake it off. All this hit me like a bucket of ice water. He was lying his ass off. He was fleeing U.S. law. He was having trouble keeping up his story straight, and I was a threat with my non-stop interrogation. I instantly changed gears, dropping any further questions, and quickly filled the tense void with non-stop chatter all about me and what I thought might happen next. To my immense relief, that seemed to work, and he calmed down just as quickly. Regarding my initial impression that I would have to battle my way out of imagined prison horrors, I'm convinced the most dangerous person in the facility was my fellow Gringo. Questions there? Skipping ahead a bit more. Mid-morning, a group of 10 prisoners approached me with their leader asking in pretty good English if he could speak with me. I said sure and gestured grandly at the chairs all around me. They all gathered close, and I could sense this was going to be something noteworthy. The leader got right to business. He wanted to know if I wanted to adopt the man sitting next to him. I looked back and forth between the two, trying to come to some other understanding of his less than perfect but pretty good English. I looked at the rest of them. They were all smiling as if expecting me to perform a miracle right before their eyes. Then I realized what they were talking about. This was some sort of prison thing. I'm a big guy, obviously a Gringo, with all the privileges that brings with it. They were concerned for the young man and wanted me to offer what protection I could. I took a good look at him, observing greater detail. He was 14 or 16 and had more than his share of cute little boy all about him. While no one had acted the least threatening to me, I could easily see how this person might find himself harassed or abused while in jail. I explained that so far I had not witnessed a single incident of violence or even harsh language. I was sure he was fine, but that if he or anyone of the group could come to me anytime they wanted for any assurance or protection I could offer. The leader let me finish, then politely informed me I had misunderstood. In completely adequate English, he carefully explained they all wanted me to actually, officially, adopt the young man as my son, so he could legitimately claim U.S. citizenship. When he finished, there was absolutely no room to claim any further language-based misunderstanding. You ever have one of those moments where a single phrase, even a single word, can rock your world and give you a completely different insight into something you thought you knew all about? There I was, looking at this bright-eyed, eager, hopeful, sincere group of men proposing an outrageous plan to me and waiting for my reply. And the ball was in my court. No way of ignoring that. I have no idea exactly what I said, the words I used. I do remember being acutely uncomfortable, trying to worm my way out of it and not having a single good reason to do so. I didn't really have any solid ground to stand on. It was obvious to me they were sincere and absolutely desperate. This was an all-or-nothing, go-for-throat, Hail Mary lob into the end zone. I was obviously an American, and some of that globally universal mystic of Alaska had only added. Beyond the superficial images, they didn't know a thing about me. If they knew where I ranked on the financial scale, they might have picked a more promising alternate. The fact that they would entrust their young man so completely to me hit me below the belt, right in the feels. But at the moment, the entire group let me off easily. They took my lame excuses graciously and didn't bring the subject up again. I know I can't save the whole world, but why couldn't I reach out from my station of plenty that I earned from the pure luck of the location of my birth and give this one desperate person a hand up? I still don't have a good answer for that. Questions there? I want to switch gears completely and talk a little bit about turning this experience into a book. What did I do? So the first thing, I got deported to Houston, Texas with 2 guards. They were not armed, but they were definitely escorting a prisoner. When we walked through the airport of Mexico City to change planes, it was very definitely, we had to go on a single file parade, guard, lead guard. Very strict on that. Okay. So anyway, they deported me to Houston, Texas. I stayed in a hotel, cheapest one I could find, and just did a brain dump of the whole experience into my computer. Did a pretty good job, I think, and then over the next few days and weeks, filled in the blanks. So that's it. I emailed a pretty entertaining story to family and friends. And I also, through a friend of my son, commissioned a painting, a watercolor painting for the cover of the book, which I wish I could show you here. But anyway, turned out great. That was 5 years ago, and then as a creative project, you just kind of had to shelve it and get on with life, earn money, and blah, blah, blah. Now, 5 years later, I'm talking to Jerry Brown of Jerry Brown Travels. And he hears me overhears me telling this story of being detained. He goes, well, I'd like to interview you for my YouTube channel. That sounds great. Okay, sure. And then I saw, well, now if I wrote this book and then had that YouTube exposure, that would be a great promotional way to launch a book. Yeah. So I talked to Jerry. He said, yeah, I'll hold off on publication of the video until you get your book ready to go, and then we'll kind of do it at the same time. Great. So I pulled the document up, go through it again. Then on formatting the document to get it up on Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP. That requires a skill set that I don't have. You have to know HTML and other programming things. I didn't know, I didn't really want to learn. I contacted a US company who would do that formatting for me. The price was quickly approaching $1,000 and could go above. I said, I don't have that money. So they recommended a company in Thailand called BB eBooks. 2 letters, BB, eBooks. They did the same work for $50, 50. Stunning result, stunning service, right on through. Plenty of revisions and everything. I tipped him another 50 because I was so happy with the work. It was great. So that got it up on ebook. It's ready for download. Jerry publishes his YouTube. Now, and I should back up a little bit. Jerry has 45,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. Okay, 45,000. My video got viewed 8,500, 8,500 times. Okay. The only thing that really did was the comments on that YouTube. If you've ever read comments, it's just the internet trolls seeking their moment in the sun to attack is off the chart. I was aware of it, but it never happened to me or anything I was working on until this time. And then I read those comments carefully, and I was just appalled. It's a disease of society now. I don't know how the hell to fix it. It's just bizarre. Now, there were some good comments, but you got to wade through so much crap just to find the gems. It's really dispiriting. Anyway, but it resulted in pretty much 0 sales. I've sold about 20 or 25 books so far. I don't know. I made up a bunch of business cards which I can hand out. On me, one side is me and my contact, and the other side a little blurb about the book. I've handed out over 100 of those. No result. I don't know. I was trying to get hard copies of the book built to have here on a table I could sell. Well, because of Amazon hoops you got to jump through, I just didn't get that started soon enough. And I don't have them built right here. I'm still working on that, but so far no books. Oh, yeah, trying to get to the hard copy. Again, that requires some skills that I don't have and don't really want to learn. somebody suggested Fiverr, Fiverr. That's a website where people will do stuff starting at $5. That's the Fiverr. And so you go onto that website, every creator has their own little billboard. You can pick the one you want. One said, doing book covers for KDP. Hit that one. Turned out this guy is RK Designed in Sri Lanka. So now I'm reaching out to Thailand and Sri Lanka to get my work done. That's my publishing team. It's a global village. And it works great. And once again, he started at $5. I immediately doubled it to all of $10. He was thrilled. I got great service. I tipped him again and multiple revisions later, multiple. And he's still just working great for me. So it's fantastic. Let's see. So my book is actually up on Amazon as a hard copy. It's available for sale with some qualifications there. They have to review it. Process can take 72 hours. That was the last thing that I just slammed into and said, okay, I can't make it for today. It's impossible. But actually that process finished in 24 hours, which kicked off another review, or not, I'm not sure, because I also got an email saying I could order proof copies, a maximum of 5. I went right through to do that, checked out the whole thing, and then realized, oh, Amazon does not ship to Mexico, at least for these proofs. So I'm still trying to figure this out. How do I went on Amazon.com Mexico, and the book shows up. I didn't go through the whole process of trying to order them. I don't know if that's going to work or not. I'm still figuring that out. In the meantime, it looks like I'm going to have to ship my proofs to a U.S. address, or my sons have them DHL it down here. That's a workaround that, who knows. If there's a better way, I'm all ears. So now my book's up on Amazon, and here's the disclaimer, the exceptions. Availability. It takes up to 3 days for Amazon.com and 5 days for other marketplaces to show as in stock. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know. The image is there. Can you really order it? I don't know. Linking. The detailed pages of your print book and ebook should link within 48 hours, but it can take up to 5 days. Okay. Product description. It can take 24 to 48 hours to appear on the detail page. Okay. Look inside the book. This feature will be available in 9 to 10 business days. And one more, book details. Changes to contributor, series name, series number, blah, 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 can take up to 72 hours to appear. So once you get your book up on Amazon, it's going to be some more time before it's really fully up on Amazon. And I have no idea. I'm brand new at it. Let's see. Oh, to prepare for this presentation, I read those sections out loud to time them. Thank you very much. And because of that reading it out loud, I was doing a lot of editing to what I thought was pretty clean work. But just the act of reading it out loud is very, very important, very productive. And if you're writing on a piece of written material, read it out loud, and you will discover a lot more stuff to work on. And I thought, well, I'm a pretty good writer. I'm a pretty damn good writer, technical writer, blah, 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 blah. I don't need to read it out loud. Wrong. If you read it out loud, you'll discover more stuff to work on. I promise you that. Let's see here. Oh, and so this missed deadline for today has a huge silver lining. And that is, I'm going to read the whole thing out loud to myself, sitting at the computer, and make a whole bunch more edits. So that turned out to be a good thing. And I brought a sign-up sheet if anybody wants to sign up for this book. I do intend to get a hard copy. I can get one to you when they arrive. I don't know. And that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, question on that, Jeff. Go ahead. Well, I never did get a visa. So
we want to repeat what she said? Because maybe in the back they didn't hear.
Yeah. So how did I ever get a visa? That was your question, right? I don't have a visa. I do have an FMM, the temporary tourist visitation card that they're still doing. Some places are now stamping just your passport. You don't get the little card. I just now came across the border via bus by Laredo, and they still did do the little form. They tear off the bottom and hand you that bottom. I have that marked for 180 days. So that's, go ahead.
Let me bring a mic to you. I got the woman in blue first. Blue, purple. Thank you.
I have a question on the financial aspect of publishing with Amazon. When you've got a hard copy book, do they just actually publish per order? You know, they could do that these days. It's a lot cheaper than it used to be.
Yeah, it's print on demand. So if you order one book, they will print one book and ship it to you. If I order three, and yeah, so it's strictly, it is, now, I haven't actually gone through this process to really test it. That's my understanding of it, is that it is truly print on demand, 1 or 2 or 10 at a time, yeah.
Okay, right here.
It sounds as if there were no repercussions from your having been deported.
Yeah, correct. So everybody heard the question there. Yeah, other people I've heard got deported and also got sort of banned from coming back into the country for a year, 5 years, or whatever. One of the other gringos that was in with me, we kept in contact for a while, and he was banned, and he was shocked that I could go right back into the country. I don't know why that is, but even during my detention processing in and held and released and all that, they said throughout the whole time, yeah, as soon as you get your visitation form figured out, you can come right back in instantly. We'd love to have you. We love your money. Yeah, you know the whole story. So, and I kept saying, well, why can't we take care of this right here, right now? Please, bring me the form. I'll pay the fee. I'll pay a fine. Don't deport her. No, we're deporting you. So that's what they did. I had to get out of the country to officially take care of this process.
Back here.
Okay. I have met and I have heard some not many, some expats, they're living here illegally because they let expire the visa.
Right.
Okay. Based on your experience, what do you recommend to those expats? And second question, on the books that you sell here in Mexico, are you obligated to pay tax, pay IVA?
Okay, so 2 questions. First, what's my recommendation to expats living here illegally? And then the second thing is like selling books here in Mexico and tax.
Are you obligated to pay tax?
Right. So the first one is my recommendation to anyone living here illegally is, well, unless you want to write a sequel to my book, you should go ahead and get legally processed into the country, even if you have to fly out and come back in and step through the process correctly. Now, if you're here illegally and you go to fly out, you know, there's this point there where they want to collect from you your current visitation documents. If you don't have one right there and then, that might be a little bit tough spot. I don't know. For me personally, I'm all done living here illegally. One experience was bloody. I don't need to write a sequel to my own book on that score. So, if you're here illegally, get it fixed. That would be my short thing. And then on the tax thing, I believe, now, and of course I don't really know this because I haven't really done it yet, but I believe that when I sell my books through Amazon, Amazon takes some of that money and handles all that tax. And then at the end sends me a tax document that says, here's what happened over the last year. But I'm still brand new at this, I don't have any of that yet, so I don't know.
Well, because you mentioned you were planning to bring some books in here to sell.
Yeah, he
All
hasn't
right.
tried it yet. We'll see. You want? Okay, let me come around. I'm a coming.
I'd just like to validate your experience up at the border. I just flew up to Reynosa to do some personal things in McAllen. I'm a residente permanente. And there was no exit. There was no exit from Reynosa. I went to the immigration officer. He looked at my docs. He said, "Oh, you don't need anything. Just here on the border, come back in." It's really easy to at the land borders to leave Mexico. And even if you try to come back in, it's sometimes hard to get immigration. You can very easily find yourself
Yes,
inside the country with no docs.
absolutely. It
And
is.
it's to be deported because of that, that's bad.
Well,
Well, it turned into a book, maybe it's good.
yeah.
All right, I'm coming to you, but right here first.
I wanted to comment about the tax, because I have books on Kindle and Amazon, and what happens is that you will get a monthly statement from them. So you see how many books you have not sold, basically. That's what happens. I have 10 on Amazon now. And it's a difficult process, especially since everything is changing all the time. And the fellow that put it on for me, had to fight the different countries. The rules are different all over the place. It's so complicated.
Yeah.
That if you can figure it out for the rest of us, Randy, more power to you. And one other question. Randy and I are in the writers group together, and so he's a friend. But I been wanting to ask you, since I've read most of the book, if you were just too much of a smartass to the immigration. It doesn't sound like you are in the book, but were you intimidating to them? I mean, which is not what you should do, I think.
Right, well, that's a good question, and the answer is yes. At one point, I turned into a bit of an asshole, no doubt about it. When I first got taken off the bus and right there at the roadside,
Right.
I was just confused.
Right.
And of course, no communication because of the language barrier, and so I just didn't know what was going on. But I was still just like, well, we'll figure this out. Whatever it is, I haven't committed any crime. We'll figure this out, and eventually I'll be on my way to, it's just a misunderstanding at this point. Now, when I arrived at the detention facility and got taken upstairs to this woman who officially processed me in as a detainee, her attitude was really condescending. I was just another piece of border hopping scum trash, and she treated me like that from the get-go and never let off the gas pedal of that. I mean, she was just B-word to way up here. And so by that time I'd been on, traveling by bus for 24 hours through the night. I was sweaty, grumpy, and I started barking back. And of course that didn't help my situation at all. At one point I pretty much just spit at her. Look, you just want money, you want some pesos, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Well, no, this is Mexico, nobody does it. Well, I thought I could tell you about what I just saw in the field out there, and we could do, but I don't want to get that guy busted.
That's another book, right? That's
And
the book
she
you just
really
read.
quizzed me heavily about, well, where did you come in the country? Blah, blah, blah. I said, well, first of all, it was a month ago. I don't remember. But it was a Mexicali by bus, and I just showed up here, and I don't know, my border reading thing was on a 45-foot long bright orange bus in the middle of the day. I didn't crawl under any fence. But, it was, she was doing her job, and I was just another piece of shit to process.
Be there.
Right here.
Thanks for sharing that slice of life with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm here, because my life is something like that. So I'm curious, and this is from personal experience. You talked about having a couple backpacks with a couple laptops in them, and obviously you had some money with you. When you were released, did you get all of that back intact?
As far as I can tell, 100%.
Wow.
100%, yeah. And it even seemed like they were more conscious of me and my stuff than would be normal. Maybe again because I'm a Gringo and American, they thought, well, if something bad happens here, we'll have some questions. We don't want to have any problems, so let's take extra careful care of this guy and his stuff. And so when they put it in the storage room, they made a big display of putting it all in its own pile by itself. And sort of asked me, is that okay? Well, I guess under the circumstances, I'd rather have it and go, but yeah, okay, whatever. But anyway, and they allowed me to keep my wallet and the money in it. When they processed me in, of course, they took my belt, my shoestrings, so I couldn't commit suicide in prison or whatever. And then they took my wallet, took everything out of my wallet, and really documented everything except the money. They didn't even touch the money. They didn't count it, but then they put everything back in my wallet, really well, accurately. Everything went in its own spot, blah, 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 like I would have done it myself, but never really addressed the money at all. But then let me keep my wallet and all the money the whole time I was in prison. So, and yeah, as far as all my stuff, I still, this is 5 years ago, still don't think a single item got taken, not one. So, yeah, good story there, yeah, thank you.
Over here?
Yes.
Yeah, 6 years ago I came here. I came across at Laredo 1 in my van. I ran away from home, actually. And I had a van full of garbage, like clothing, I had pictures, I had everything. And I came down through there, they stopped me at the border, at the immigration, unloaded my van, took a bunch of stuff out, gave me a ticket, of tax I had to pay, I think it was like 40 pesos, paid that, hopped back in the van, loaded my van back up. He points down the way, so I went down the way. I see the highway out there, so I went out to the highway, then I ended up all the way down to Acayucan with nothing.
Yeah.
I get down here, and I was here for 6 months, and everybody's saying, how can you do that? How can you do that? I don't know. I don't have a sticker on my window. I have nothing. And I got caught in Chapala. We were going buying some hay for the horses. And my friend took me to this one spot. So we got it. I'm doing a U-turn to come back. And, this great big trucks coming the other way at me with a cop on it, Chapala policeman.
Yeah.
And he stops me. And he's giving me a ticket for going the wrong way on a one-way street. And he said, oh, where's your visa? I'm like, I don't have a visa, I don't have anything. I explained to him what happened. Oh, well, you can't do that. And I said, yeah. He says, I think you should go to an immigration. He says, I can take your car right now if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And he said, but pay the ticket tomorrow, it's half price if you pay it tomorrow. And he says, and get the rest done as soon as you can.
Yeah.
About 2 months after that, I was here for 8 months. And I went back to up to the States, and I'm just worried going through the border. What am I going to do going through without paper?
Yeah.
There's a toll booth there. I went through that. I get into the United States Customs. They could care less, and I went home.
Yeah. Once again, when I got
Lots of good
deported to
stories
Houston,
here.
when I got deported to the U.S. immigration, like, well, we don't care. You're back in the country. And they were shocked that they got deported for such a trivial thing. Anyway, that's what happened.
We were going to buy a posada on a beach in Oaxaca, southern Mexico, and we were in the process, and we were trying to get immigration as residents in Arizona, going through the process there, and we had 180 days. So we had to fly back home to Arizona for something, and then we flew right back, and we didn't get any paperwork from our hotel on the beach in Oaxaca, this little village. And so when we were in Mexico City transferring flights, the new immigration, this is in December of last year, like 11 months ago, they said, well, because of a lot of Americans wanting to move here, we've changed it, and now you only get 2 weeks, or 30 days if you don't have any paperwork from your hotel. So here we had like a lot of stuff in Oaxaca, and we were planning to move there. And so we said, we learned, from other people, never argue with anyone and be very polite. And so we said, yes, thank you, we'll take the 30 days, thank you so much. And we were like, what are we gonna do? We're staying for 5 months. So we thought, we'll figure it out. So we immediately arrived at our little place on the beach in Oaxaca, and we had dinner with our friend. And our friend said, you won't believe it. I just got residency in Mexico, the 4 years. I said, what did you do? And this is the point of the story. For everybody here who has a friend, I don't know if it's true here, but I believe it would be. Well, she said, my 180-day visa expired, and the day after it expired, they have this rule now in Mexico that if you're on a tourist visa and it expires, you can become a resident.
What?
So what happened, what happened is that she had an agent who works with immigration, and then she said, I'll give you her phone number, and there's lots of these agents that are not part of immigration, and they're not lawyers, but they work with them. And so I went to her, and sure enough, when my visa expired, the day after, I had already called her the week before to arrange all this, and the day after my visa expired, because I didn't feel comfortable being here without a visa, I became a resident of Mexico.
And I went through Hualtuco in Oaxaca. I have her phone number, but I'm sure there's someone around here who knows how to do that locally, probably in Guadalajara.
Now, don't crowd around her as we leave. For how many people are going to want that information? Okay, let's see where we are. You want to comment? We just have. I'm really trying to take questions. You have a quick question?
Yell.
You're going to yell?
Did you get to
Ignore
keep
me.
your phone, and if so, did you take photographs?
Did she get to keep her phone and did she take photographs?
Well, I got my phone back, but it was confiscated going in and stored, and so I didn't have access to my phone while I was in.
Okay, Jesus. Everybody's, you know about how many hands are up right now for a quick question?
Too quick. How much time transpired from when you got off the bus to when you got to the States?
Oh, two.
How much time transpired from when you got off the bus till you got in the States? How much time were you in custody?
Oh, well, 6 days and then a half a day on each of into that getting to and from.
Okay, and you said your book was on Amazon Mexico, but you didn't order it?
It's on Amazon,
Mexico.
yes.
Why didn't you order it?
Well, because I guess part of the reason is the lack of fully being up on Amazon. You know, all these other things that have to happen before it's really fully up on. I don't know. To be answered, I don't know. I couldn't get them here in time for today. And so in the process of preparing for today, I realized, well, I've got to edit the whole thing again, so no sense printing it out with what I know is a bunch of mistakes in it. So I'm going to do the edit first and then build the hard copy and then proceed. So right now it's on hold for editing. So,
Yeah, right here.
yeah, Mark.
I was just thinking, and this is backing way up, people might appreciate the story about not eating and how that changed how you were treated and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, so that's, and of course that's covered in my book. I don't want to give it all away. Yeah, when I first showed up there, the first meal was an evening meal. And I was just too freaked out to eat. So I just passed on that meal. The next morning, I was still a little bit shaken. I thought, well, I'll get a cup of coffee. But that was so heavily sugared right out of the pot, there was no option to not have it sugared. I dumped it out. And so I skipped breakfast. And then by the time lunch rolled around, I was starting to become aware of the fact that I just might need a hunger strike going on to further my cause. And I'd already done some research for my bear book of a guy stranded on the beach. How long can you go without food? And the answer really is if you're packing a little reserve, which maybe most of us are, as long as you're drinking good water, you can go for 2 weeks without any food, without any problem. And so I spent the entire 6 days in detention, did not eat a single morsel. And when I got to Houston, I caught myself in the mirror and thought, oh, geez, wow, that worked pretty good. I look pretty good. And I thought, well, it'd be easy to keep that off. Well, it was way more easier to put it right back on. And so, but anyway, yeah, so.
I was thinking about when they came to you and were asking you, are you on strike?
Yeah.
Would you finally say yes, how?
So about halfway through this, of course, they had observed me just sitting there not eating when everybody else was just wolfing it down. And so they took me back to the sort of the off the regular floor into a little room with 2 guards and the 2 cooks. And the cooks were like nervous as hell, like it was their fault or their problem. And I said, no, I'm just not hungry, I'm just not eating. And they said, well, we will make you anything you want within reason if you eat. And I said, well, I'm just not interested in eating, thank you very much. And so they pushed and I pushed back and I finally said, look, I'm not eating, that's it, bring water. I kind of barked it out and they let me alone. And then one of the guys that was in there, who was my main translator for this whole event, sat me down one time and he really quizzed me hard on why I wasn't eating. And I said, well, you know, blah, 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 and I just evaded the whole thing. And finally he goes, are you striking? And I goes, well, yeah, maybe a little bit. And he just thumped back in a chair and I could just see the gears just really cranking it. And he never brought it up again. And I'm convinced now that that guy, he had a pretty cozy relationship with the guards. And I think he was actually on some level an informant for the guards. And so he had a go-between. He was the guy to talk to get anything. He said, whatever you need, I'm the guy. I said, well, what about getting out of here? He goes, well, for a price. Well, probably a lot of money, and even once I get outside the facility on some dubious, whatever, I can't exactly blend into the background. I'm 6'2" and white, and so never mind. But it's an interesting thought.
Okay, are we done?
I'm
Are we
done.
done? I think this.
One comment.
Well,
Your experience was 5 years ago.
Yes, 5 years ago.
This new administration is changing so many things, and corruption is one of them. The aduanas, the ports, now have been charged with the military, not private companies. Big difference.
Okay. And so you're saying that the corruption is being wiped out in that way?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It has taken many years.
Sure.
And it's all rooted.
Rooted
so
in the
it's going
culture.
to take not just 6 years for this new president.
Yeah.
It's going to take another
A
100
generation
years.
or two. Yeah.
Same corruption in the United States.
Yeah. No, excellent point. The corruption is worldwide. You got to deal with it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.